Okay, everyone, I'm going to make a video. I already started making the detailed versions of this video, but I'm scrapping all that. I'm going to make one clean, probably 10-minute video. I don't know. I'm going to try to keep it short. I'm not going to go into all the detail about all of this. I want to just give what I believe to be true, and we can talk about it. And what I want to say too is that I'm not trying to disparage anyone about what they believe. There are just so many different things floating out there. Practitioners are using the same terminology for different things, different words for the same things, and it's confusing to be a part of this field of this is our field of practice. If we don't all understand what we do in the same way, then how do we expect people who come to us to understand what it is we do? We can't even name it, and be consistent with people, the last person they saw. So we need to have a common structure or a common framework to explain all of this so it makes sense to everyone. Okay, so I'm going to give my key points. I will go into detail of each in a future video, but I just want to put this out there because I've posted recently about this and I've seen other people posting about this, and I just want to say this is what I believe. Okay, I'm just going to make the key points, and like I said, I'll go into detail about what everything is in future videos. So I think people are mixing source, mechanism, and interpretation. They're mixing where it comes from, how it works, and the understanding of what it is. And that's confusing for everybody. So the first thing I want to talk about is the field. I will not give the explanation of what the field is today. I will just say, because I will never get through all this in one video if I do that. So pardon the notes if I didn't say that already. But I want to make sure I say everything that I need to say. For me, the field exists of living people, spirit communicators, animals, spirit and living, and environments. And this is our foundation. The field is everything. It's energy. It's everywhere. It's frequency. Okay, the clairs. The clairs are not psychic. We don't use clairs just for psychic, and the clairs are not simply a psychic function. The clairs are a function of our sensory nervous system. Information comes into our body, into our senses, and they're filtered as these clairs that we receive or perceive. We perceive when we move our awareness, we receive them, and we express from the clairs. But we can express psychically, we can express mediumistically through the clairs. That's the way we interpret everything. So it's not just psychic; it's also mediumistic. The only thing that changes is the target: someone in spirit, someone who is living, animal, whatever. Okay. Also, so what is psychic? People don't seem to know what psychic is. And this is common. I feel like I say this ad nauseum. So psychic is reading a living person, someone in the energy of a person, their current state, in the here and now, only the present moment, only the present moment. You can bring up information about the past for sure, but that it's in their field, obviously. But future information, no, absolutely not. That is not a function of psychic. You can bring up information that can help them to change, to be their best version of themselves for future events, or change things that they do just to affect, patterns in their life that are healthier or can make them, get to a place where they are able to receive what the universe is lining up for them. So that is pretty much a summary. The current state, their emotional field, their behavioral patterns. That's it, and not fixed on the future. So mediumship is a different target. We're not reading living people. We're reading spirit communicators. This is a consciousness to consciousness connection. Now, the energy of psychic exists within the field. We go into the field, it's there. The field around the person, the field in general. We don't have to be in front of the person to do that. Mediumship, we do go into the field, but within that field, there's that consciousness to consciousness connection with the spirit communicator. again, I will go more into the details about that later. But we're here in this mediumship connection. Both are conscious. We in Because consciousness is non-local, it does not exist in our brain. I'll go into that again later. So we are living, embodying our consciousness. They're in spirit. Their spirit body is embodying consciousness as well. But only one has a physical nervous system, and that's people living. Seership. What is seership? Seership is a mediumship function, wherein you can see see, hear, feel, know future events for your sitter. So you have to have a spirit communicator, and this is future reading. You have to have a spirit communicator, but what seership is, it's information outside of linear time, because in the spirit world, there's no linear time. So when you receive information from the spirit communicator, you don't have a perception of whether that's past, present, or future. That's why sometimes people will receive information that is, what's it called? When they are giving information about proof of life, that's just information that, oh, I just did that, or yeah, we were doing that last week, that's where I went. So they can give past events, shared memories, things like that, present information. They can also give future information. I've had this happen a bunch of times, a lot. And that is seership. You're receiving information from the spirit communicator, who can see in all directions, or perceive or express in all directions. They're giving it to us, and we tell them we don't know if that hasn't happened yet. So sometimes if someone says, no, I don't understand that, tell them, well, this could come up in the next few days or weeks, so just pay attention to that. That is seership. That's future. Seeing the future, or seeing, feeling, hearing, whatever. And mediums usually don't know which things are past, present, or future. Okay, so telepathy versus mediumship, because I had someone talk about telepathy, that they believe that they're communicating with animals telepathically. I do not believe this at all. No, again, no, just not trying to disparage that person, or cause any kind of an argument. I'm just expressing my own beliefs. So I believe that, and per the definition, telepathy is an intentional exchange of information, of consciousness between two living systems, mediated through active nervous systems. It requires two embodied systems. So you might have, an animal is embodied, and and a human is embodied, but they have to share a biological interface, and to have an intentional exchange. So these are symmetrical systems. So, for instance, human to human, that's telepathy. If I'm sitting in front, or anywhere across from someone, down the hall, whatever, if I'm looking at an image, I can imagine that and send that to them telepathically. I don't believe that animals are doing that, because the animals don't have the intention. They have emotions, but they don't have shared language. They don't have the same kind of language at all. They might have emotions that they can express, but they're not thinking, hey, there's somebody in another state who's trying to get information out of me, because my person is on a Zoom call with them, and I want to make sure they talk about my favorite treats. That's not happening. That they don't have any awareness of you. Even if you're in front of them, they don't have an awareness of your relationship with their person. They might just say, I like this person's energy, but they're not telling you that. It's in the field. This is information that's in the field. You're picking it up from the field. It's same as psychic, essentially. So that is telepathy, and so the difference is, mediumship is receiving information from a consciousness to consciousness connection, and in telepathy, you're receiving information from the field. Okay, mediumship. Why am I going back to mediumship? Interaction between a living nervous system and a non-physical consciousness. There's no second biological system. Information is impressed, perceived, and expressed, and this is an asymmetrical system. And last couple things. Yeah, so I want to talk about energy in environments. Spaces hold residual patterns of experience. I do paranormal stuff, house assessments, home assessments. So I call this residual imprinting, and this is yeah, so whenever you go into a home, it holds memories, it holds these imprints of residual energy, so whatever happened in that home stays in that home. You can still pick up on anything that happened in that home, um, days, weeks, months, years, centuries, after it happened. You can, I get evidence the same way I do with mediumship in a home. And on the more recent homes, people who've lived in or have been the sole owner of that home can usually validate all of the evidence that I give them. The older homes, they can validate some of the stories, especially the big spectacular stories. But again, there are, people, sometimes dozens of families who lived in that home for several hundred years. They won't know all the things. They're not all catalogs. They can't find all of this and validate it for me. I've also done paranormal investigations in a hotel, and different people pick up on different things. There are thousands of people who stay at hotels monthly, yearly. It depends on how many rooms they have. So you can get impressions from something that happened down the hall. There are things that happen all over the place. So, hotels are kind of wild, But anyway, okay, so this is residual energy, and this can be in the form of, can be repetition, something they did constantly. It could be events, could be emotion, and this leaves like a readable pattern. Um, Okay. Yeah, so residual does not mean equal spirit. Residual equals an imprint, which is no awareness. It's just this energy that's just repeating, or it doesn't have to repeat. It just there's this energy that sits in the field. A spirit is conscious, and responsive. So that's the distinction there. So if you are communicating with someone in a paranormal investigation, there is intelligence, there is a consciousness, and they will respond to you because there is a consciousness. Um, okay. Animals. Animals communicate through state, not structured language. There's emotion, there's instinct, and there's attention. We perceive, and our brain translates. Um, we're not getting like full sentence based communication. They're not saying, I love my person, and I like when they take me for walks, and I like the mailman. That is not happening. You might get that in the fields because you can see that the dog, wags its tail when the mailman comes by. You can see their maybe picture their favorite treats because that dog reacts to them. Whenever the person shakes them or something, that doesn't mean they're telling you. That just means that you're picking it up from the residual energy or the memory in the field. Okay, and last, also in nature, trees communicate biologically through chemical and root networks, but this is not telepathy. I just want to bring that up because we all know that plants and animals, plants, it's all living things. So I wanted to bring that up. Not all communication is conscious exchange. Some communication is built into the system itself. Now, the nervous system is the interface. That was a word I was trying to think of. It's the processor or the interface, not the origin. The origin is consciousness. That is the primary origin of all of this, everything that happens. Consciousness of the client, so if you're doing psychic, our consciousness of the spirit communicator, consciousness of the animal, consciousness of the plants. That's the origin or the foundation of everything we do. Everything. Secondary is the nervous system. The sensory nervous system is secondary. So first is the foundation. It's the consciousness. Then we work through our nervous system, and that awareness rises within us. Third would be third would be that awareness. Fourth would be the brain processing it with the filters. That's why they call it mental mediumship. I don't think it's mental. I would actually I would say let's call it sensory mediumship or somatic mediumship. We're using all of our body systems and senses. And last, finally, is the body translates it through those clairs. And I know I don't want to say translate, we don't interpret, but we translate the meaning, we translate the through the filter. That's what I mean. And okay, so people are confusing where information comes from, how it's received, and what it means. And so that is my primary, that's primarily what I wanted to say. So all of this uses the same sensory system. What changes is what you're connecting to. Is it a living person? Is it a spirit communicator? Is it an animal? And we're not just connecting to that. Are we connecting to the field? Are we connecting consciousness to consciousness? And that only happens with spirit communicators. Everything else is in the field. Animals and living people in the field. Also paranormal, it's in the field. Residual energy, memory, unless there's an intelligence there, which is a consciousness to consciousness connection. Okay. All right, I think that is everything for now. Just to also say one thing is that, I'm not correcting or arguing. I'm trying to bring structure to something that has never had structure. Everybody has different ideas, and we really need to create a structure. This is the way I understand it. I will go more into detail with definitions and how we interact in future videos, but I really wanted to get this out because, people have been talking about it. I'm sorry this is so long. This is my massive summary. All right, have a good night, everybody.